Akka, an ancient port city in modern-day Israel, holds a unique and profound place in religious history, particularly within the Baha'i faith. As described in Baha'i texts like Shoghi Effendi's God Passes By, the city is seen not merely as a historical location, but as a focal point of prophecy, where diverse religious traditions converge. This essay explores the multifaceted prophetic significance of Akka, its historical reality as a place of exile, and its transformation into a spiritual center. Akka's historical and prophetic roots. Akka's history spans over 4 millennia, with archaeological evidence of settlement since the early Bronze Age. Its strategic location as a natural harbor and a gateway between East and West made it a target for various empires, including the Romans, Crusaders, and Ottomans. This history of conquest and transformation provides a backdrop for its prophetic importance. Prophecies about Akka appear in a range of religious traditions, hinting at its future spiritual role. Biblical references. The Old Testament contains allusions to the city. David reportedly described it as the strong city, a title that would later take on new meaning when it became a formidable prison fortress. Hosea referred to it as a door of hope, suggesting its role in spiritual renewal. Ezekiel prophesied about a gate in the east where the glory of the God of Israel would arrive. These references establish Akka as a place of divine significance, linking it to the messianic expectations of Abrahamic religions. Islamic Hadith. Islamic tradition contains several direct prophecies about Akka. Muhammad is quoted as calling it a city in Syria to which God hath shown his special mercy. Other hadith describe it as white, whose whiteness is pleasing unto God, and state that a month in Akka is better than 1,000 years elsewhere. The most well-known hadith, confirmed by multiple classical Islamic sources, declares, "Blessed the man that hath visited Akka, and blessed he that hath visited the visitor of Akka." These sayings elevate the city to an exalted spiritual status, a stark contrast to its later reputation. Sufi mysticism. A particularly striking prophecy comes from the Sufi master Sheikh Ibn al-Arabi in his work, Futuhat-i Makki. This hadith predicts that in the end times, only one companion of the Qarim, a messianic figure, will survive and reach Akka, the banquet hall of God. Ibn al-Arabi, in chapter 366 of his book Futuhat al-Makkiyah, presents a profound and mystical treatise on the characteristics of the Mahdi, his ministers, and the eschatological events of the end of days. This chapter, titled On the Knowledge of the Station of the Ministers of the Mahdi, who will appear at the end of time, delves into spiritual and symbolic truths about this messianic figure and his divinely appointed circle. It portrays a reality where spiritual power, rather than physical force, is the ultimate force for change and divine justice. The Mahdi, a figure of prophetic fulfillment. The text describes the Mahdi as a figure who shares a deep connection with the Prophet Muhammad. He is said to physically resemble the Prophet, possessing a broad forehead and an aquiline nose. The Mahdi's mission is not merely political, but profoundly spiritual. The text asserts that he will reveal the religion as it truly is in itself and remove all schools of thought from the earth so that only the pure religion remains. This is a radical and transformative mission, suggesting that in the end times, the complexities of religious jurisprudence and sectarianism will be swept away in favor of a fundamental and unified divine truth. His primary adversaries, therefore, are not political leaders, but the imitators among the scholars and the people of ijtihad, juristic reasoning, who oppose his rulings because they deviate from the established traditions of their imams. The text also mentions that the Mahdi's reign will be brief, lasting either 5, 7, or 9 years. This short duration underscores the intensity and swiftness of his mission, which is destined to restore justice and revitalize religion in a corrupt world. The Quran, according to the text, will be his ruler, and the sword will be his annihilator of falsehood, signaling that his authority is derived from divine law and enforced with decisive power. The ministers and the one who remains. The most striking aspect of the Mahdi's circle is the description of his ministers. The text reveals that they are non-Arabs, and though they speak Arabic, none of them are of Arab descent. This detail challenges conventional eschatological expectations and highlights the universal nature of the Mahdi's mission. The text goes on to describe the spiritual power that defines these ministers: truthfulness, al-sidq. This quality is presented as a spiritual sword, an attribute so potent that it makes its possessor invincible. The text asserts that victory is a sibling of truthfulness, and wherever truthfulness is found, victory follows. It is this unwavering integrity that makes the Mahdi's ministers undefeatable, even in the face of overwhelming odds. A central prophecy in this chapter states that these ministers will all be killed except for one. This single survivor will be present at the divine banquet in the plain of Akka. The text refers to a Chur's guardian, Hafiz Exau, of the ministers who is not of their kind and has never disobeyed God at all, suggesting a separate, sinless entity who protects them, which is referring to be an infallible entity above the humankind. This profound prophecy of the single survivor among the ministers is a separate point, adding a layer of mystery and divine exception to the apocalyptic events. Opening cities without a sword. The text from Futuhat al-Makkiyah offers a profound reinterpretation of warfare and conquest. It prophesies he will open the city of Rome, not with swords and physical might, but with spiritual power. This symbolic act of opening a city without a sword is directly linked to the principle of truthfulness, al-sidq, that defines the Mahdi's ministers. Their victory is not a result of military strategy, but a consequence of their perfect alignment with divine will. Their truthfulness is the spiritual force that topples the physical barriers of the world. This narrative challenges the conventional understanding of a military victory and presents a victory of a higher spiritual order. It underscores the belief that in the end of days, God's power will be made manifest not through human instruments of war, but through the pure spiritual qualities of his chosen servants. The divine banquet at Akka. The text contains a key reference to the divine banquet, Maidat Allah, at the plain of Akka. The Mahdi is said to witness the great battle, which is referred to as this divine banquet. This term is not a literal description of feeding the world from Akka, but a powerful symbolic metaphor for a final, decisive event. In mystical and religious contexts, a banquet or a table is often a symbol of divine bounty, sustenance, and communion. Here, it is associated with a great final conflict. The banquet is for the beasts of prey and insects, as the text notes, indicating that the conflict will be so great it will provide a feast for the creatures of the earth. The significance of Akka, a city that was a notorious prison fortress in the 19th century, lies in its role as the stage for this divine banquet. It is the site where the great final battle unfolds, and where the one remaining minister of the Mahdi will survive, protected by a divine exception. This prophecy places Akka at the center of the eschatological climax, transforming a place of perceived desolation and imprisonment into the site of divine reckoning and spiritual culmination. The historical reality, a city of desolation. The prophetic visions of Akka stood in sharp contrast to its condition by the 19th century. Under the Ottoman Empire, the city was transformed into a desolate fortress and a notorious prison. It was known as the end of the world, a place where political prisoners and criminals were sent to die. The city's air was said to be so foul that birds would fall dead, and its streets were described as filthy and decrepit. The Baha'i fulfillment, prophecy meets history. The Baha'i faith views the arrival of its founder, Baha'u'llah, in Akka as the culmination of these ancient prophecies. Exiled by the Ottoman government in August 1868, Baha'u'llah and his family were imprisoned in the citadel of Akka, an event that marked the beginning of his final mission. What the authorities intended as a political punishment, Baha'is see as a divinely orchestrated act. Baha'u'llah himself had alluded to his journey in a tablet written before his arrival, referring to Akka as the Bai's Veil of Nabal, a symbolic name that shares the same numerical value. This pre-exilic prophecy suggests that Baha'u'llah not only anticipated his exile to this specific location, but also recognized its profound spiritual significance. His imprisonment in the city allowed him to reveal his most important writings, including the Kitab-i-Aqdas, the Most Holy Book. He would live the rest of his life in and around Akka, and his resting place at Baji became the holiest site for Baha'is worldwide. Theological implications of a prophetic convergence. The story of Akka raises several significant theological points. Progressive revelation. The fulfillment of these prophecies is understood within the Baha'i principle of progressive revelation, which holds that God reveals His will through a series of divine messengers. The prophecies about Akka, therefore, represent the anticipation of a new spiritual dispensation that would transcend the boundaries of any single faith. From curse to blessing. The transformation of Akka from a place of punishment to a site of pilgrimage and spiritual light embodies the concept of divine reversal. What appeared to be a curse was, in reality, a blessing in disguise, as it served to fulfill prophetic promises. Universality of religious truth. The convergence of prophecies from Jewish, Christian, Islamic, and Sufi traditions about a single location points to an underlying unity of religious truth. This provides a foundation for interfaith dialogue, as it shows how different faiths have anticipated a shared spiritual future. Conclusion: the eternal city and temporal transformation. The story of Akka serves as a powerful case study in the intersection of prophecy, history, and faith. An ancient city that witnessed the rise and fall of empires became a focal point for the convergence of diverse prophetic traditions. The transformation of this desolate prison into a spiritual center and the shift in its perception from a place of banishment to a site of pilgrimage testifies to the enduring human hope that divine purpose can emerge from even the most challenging circumstances. For Baha'is, Akka is not merely a location on a map, but a spiritual symbol. It represents the fulfillment of ancient prophecies and stands as a testament to the power of faith to transform not only an individual's life, but also the spiritual destiny of a place. The prophetic words about Akka continue to resonate today, serving as a bridge between ancient beliefs and modern spiritual understanding, and as a reminder that the sacred can be found in the most unexpected places.